Welcome back to Raising Truth Podcast. Thank you again for tuning back into my videos, to my conversations. I pray, as always, that this edifies whoever comes across these videos and these conversations. Today, I'm excited to get into what we're going to talk about today. This is specifically for moms. I got this word that I felt so strongly to talk about. So it was perfect for Mother's Day weekend, specifically for mothers. So I hope and I pray that this blesses all the moms out there, and to remind you that you're seen and that your feelings, right? They're validated, what you're feeling right now. But I have some tools that I want to discuss, right? To kind of break free from some of the things that we may get stuck in, and some cycles that we as moms normalize, but we get stuck in. And that's what I want to get into. So I'm excited, and I pray that this blesses all the moms that come across this video. So today we're going to talk about exposing the roots of exhaustion. So like I said, sometimes as moms, we get stuck in these cycles that we normalize. So we have normalized exhaustion, right? Yes, as moms, we get exhausted, and we have a lot of duties, right, to fulfill for, our children and in our homes. But sometimes we normalize it so much that we get stuck in these cycles and cycle of exhaustion and tiredness, right? But we don't necessarily have to stay there. Like, we normalize that, and sometimes there's sources of that exhaustion that we keep ourselves tied to. That does not necessarily mean we have to stay there, right? So how can we break free from these cycles of exhaustion? Well, let's take a look at some of the things that feed into that exhaustion, that are things that we can break free from, that we can analyze and acknowledge what it is, so that we don't have to stay stuck in that same, cycle of just like perpetual exhaustion. Number one is to break free from culture, break free from cultural expectations, break free from what the culture has put upon us as moms, right? The pressures, what has been put on us of how to be, right? Culture has convinced women, has convinced mothers that you have to be this ultra self-sufficient, self-made, like there's pride in this. It's a culture that has convinced you to get caught up in hyper femininity, right? And the devil is a liar. Okay, the devil is a liar. We were made in his image and likeness for God's purpose and his will. So we will exhaust ourselves getting into things that we were never meant or created to be. See, what the culture has in the picture of like this hyper femininity, right? Women, we're capable, we could do whatever the man could do. We're capable of doing all things. And even saying like, we don't need a man because we're capable, right? We're self-sufficient and independent enough that we can take care of all those things. We can do whatever, right? Whatever needs to be done. But this is, not the case. Let's look into Genesis 1, verse 27. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. So each was made with purpose and distinction. They're male and female, right? Each has a specific function that they were created to be. So if we start operating and start putting on this identity of the hyper femininity, right? That I can do whatever a man can do. I'm capable of all that. So I don't need a man. I don't need all this because I am self-sufficient. I'm independent, yada, 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 all that stuff. But we weren't created to be in that space. We were created to function as females, as the the positions and the things that God designed us to be. The two were meant to be complementary to each other. So there are roles that each fulfill so that they can then complement each other. If we're too busy trying to be them, then we can't be that complementary pair that is efficient and operating in God's design. So if we're stuck, again, in this cultural perception of how we should be, then we're getting burnt out because we're fulfilling roles that we were not meant to. Now, I'm not talking about, for example, let's say single parents, right? I'm not talking about single parents in the sense of, single parents that they need to fulfill the roles that they need to fulfill, right? If they're alone, they have no help, right? All that stuff. I'm not getting into that space. I'm talking about you are putting on this, that identity, right? Of saying, I don't need a man or whatever because I am to be self-made, self-sufficient. I don't need help. I don't need anybody. All right. Like that, owning that identity and owning that personality that was never put upon us by God. It was never meant for us to put on that identity. Again, we were made in his image and his likeness. And again, it also says in Romans 12:2, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good, pleasing, and perfect. So what is his will? Good, pleasing, and perfect. So again, it's his will. We are not to conform to whatever the world is saying and doing. We are to fulfill his will, and we are to operate in his image, right? In his likeness, in the way, in his purpose of how he created us to be. So if we find ourselves exhausted trying to keep up because, again, you're getting caught up in that hyper femininity, right? That you are to fulfill all these roles, right? You need to do it. No, you don't. Accept the help. Stay in the will of God, right? What he created us and destined us to be, and accept help when help is offered. You could be married and be stuck in that mentality and not allowing your spouse to help you. Allow him to help. How can he help you? How can you accept help so that you're not as exhausted and not taking on every single task because you have to, or getting stuck in I can't rest because women don't rest. We just go, right? All that stuff. We got to complete, everything, and we do it ourselves. But again, it's not our sufficiency. It's Christ's sufficiency, resting in that he is sufficient for us. Now that goes into the next one, releasing hyper ambition. What is hyper ambition, right? Because there's healthy ambition, right? Because God doesn't, right? Laziness is a sin, right? So we are to have healthy, godly ambition, right? And ambition for the things that he places in our hearts to do and complete and work towards, right? He wants us to work hard. He wants us to work diligently and in excellence, right? So there is healthy ambition in the things that he designed and placed in our hearts to do. But then there's like that hyper ambition. It's when you step out of whatever his will is and what he designed specifically for you to accomplish. And then you get into this hyper ambition where you feel that you are not allowed to rest. You have to always be doing something. You always have to be thinking about the next thing. You always have to be caught up in chasing 1,000 dreams, 1,000 things all at once, right? It's the need, right? It's the feeling that you can't rest and the need to always have to be doing something involving that, saying yes to everything, being a yes person, releasing that and remaining in the healthy ambition in the things that God did place into your hands and what he did will for you, right? To be in the spaces he willed for you to be in. Not you being like, well, I have to be chasing the next thing. I have to be constantly moving. I have to say yes to everything because I have to be involved in everything. I have to be busy, 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 busy. God's rest is sufficient. You need to be able to be in God's rest. When we get caught in that, so what happens is we're not resting. You get burnt out. Again, you're exhausted. And then now you're stepping into places and things you were never meant to be in. So releasing hyper ambition is releasing being where you are not meant to be in and don't need to be doing what we were never meant to do. So you're exhausted because you're carrying things that you were never meant to be carrying, right? We're carrying weights of all these things that we were never meant to be carrying. And we're carrying all these burdens that we've placed on ourselves, right? We need to release that by releasing all the burdens that we've placed on ourselves and all the burdens that all the spaces and things that we were never meant to be in. So we need to release that, release the things and the places of which we were never meant to be in, and release the burdens that you've placed on yourself. The two cause exhaustion because, again, you're finding yourself in a space or doing things and juggling things that you were never meant to be doing, that you were never meant to be carrying all of that. So again, how can we do that, right? We release that need to have to be so busy, to have to be doing all these things, to have to be saying yes to everything. No, learning how to say no when you know that that's not God's will for you. When you know God doesn't want you in that space, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, you know what, right now in this season of my life, I don't feel that that's something that God is calling me to do. I don't feel like that's something God is calling me to carry. Learning when there's a certain space that you don't need to be in. That's not God's will or purpose for your life, in this season or at all. Like, we need to learn how to say no. We need to learn to be like, well, I don't need to be in all these spaces. There's rest and peace when you're in alignment with what God is asking of you, when you're in alignment of what he's telling you, what he's placed for you in this season. That's why it's so important to have that relationship with God, because you'll have peace, you'll have rest, and therefore you'll have peace in knowing that you don't need to be chasing 1,000 things just because, or chasing 1,000 things just because let's say your parents, your family, or your circle of influence is telling you to do all these things. No, what is God telling you? What do you feel that what are you hearing that the Holy Spirit is leading you to? Right? Because society, your family, all of these things could be pushing you in a certain direction because you have to be doing all these things. But that doesn't mean that is what's for you. We're just getting caught up in it because so-and-so has told you to, so-and-so has put that pressure on you. But we need to learn how to say no, how to be still and hear his voice and walk in the things that he has for you. And I myself am learning that too. My brain, I feel like I can't shut it off sometimes. And it's just like going. And when I finally started feeling peace is when I just started releasing things that I'm like, okay, in this season, I don't need to be, overly worrying about these things. I don't need to be, in this space. Let me start narrowing down my focus, listening to what God is saying for me to do, where to be, allowing him to lead without the pressure of all these outside influences, without listening. So now I have peace, I have rest, and knowing that I am exactly where God has meant for me to be in, has destined for me to be in. So we need to release hyper ambition, release the burdens that you have placed on yourself. Ephesians 5:17. Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. This is understanding his will over our lives. We are sufficient in Christ alone. So we need to understand what's his will, right? It's understanding God's sovereignty in our lives, not paying attention to what the noise is, right? this is also breaking a lot of, generational cycles, again, because it's been placed on the woman to always be busy, busy, busy. You have to do all these things. You have to be always doing something. You're not allowed to rest because you're a mom. You're a woman. You're not allowed to, right? It's that pressure from, society, from the generations before you, culturally. Let's break those cycles and release ourselves from the cultural pressures by remaining in his will, saying no, releasing all the things that God doesn't want you to be in. That you know what, God, I'm not meant to be in this. That's not what you want for me. That's not what you have for me. And being confident in that. Let your no's be no and your yeses be yes. Again, don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. Lord, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to be? Is this where you want me? Is this what you want me to be doing right now? And let go whatever he says no to. And you be obedient and walk in that obedience. Receive that rest and peace that is your portion, because it is. Despite whoever is saying otherwise to you, peace is your portion. Rest is your portion. Receive that today. Lastly, releasing control. Releasing control. Again, we, as moms, we want to say we have we want to be in everything. And we feel like because, sometimes you're just like, I need to fix everything. I need everything to be perfect. I need to, that feeling of having to be in control of everything because you want everything to go well. You need everything to go a certain way. You need everything to be laid out in a certain manner so that you can be at peace, right? But your peace is tied to control. So then when you're not in control, when there's situations that are out of your control, and things happen where you can't fix them, where you don't have control over it, then what happens is, not because you've tied your peace to it, that when something happens, your mind spins out of control. And now you no longer have peace. Now you're filled with anxiety and you're freaking out and you're feeling this weight. Or if you're having a panic attack or you can't breathe, like all of a sudden, because again, your peace was tied not to God, but it was tied to having control. So we need to be able to release control so that we can have peace, so that we can have rest. We need to release the control, the thought that we have to control everything, that things are even in our control to begin with, that we have, that we are in charge of all the outcomes, right? At the end of the day, God is going to do what God's going to do. And we need to trust him. Trust that not everything is in our control. Trust in what he's saying and how he's leading us. Isaiah 46:10, only I can tell you the future before it even happens. Everything I plan will come to pass, for I do whatever I wish. For I do whatever I wish. Now you may be reading that like, wow. Like that stings a little, Lord. So it doesn't matter like what I do. No, it doesn't matter. It's not all in our control. He's going to do whatever he wish. Only he knows the future before we know it. Only he knows. Only he knows what's going to happen tomorrow and the day after that. He is the beginning and the end, right? He is the only one that knows, right? So you're like, oh, wow, like I do whatever I wish. Yes, he does whatever he wish. And that's when, it's a strong statement when you say, Lord, let your will be done. Not my will, but your will be done in my life. It's a powerful statement because he does what he wants to do. But again, we have peace knowing that he works all things for our good. We have to trust that no matter what it is, it's going to work for our good and our benefit because he loves us. He loves us. Acts 17, verse 28. For in him we live and move and exist. For in him we live, move, and exist. So all things are in him, not in us, in him. So we need to remind ourselves when we're stuck in that and we're feeling exhausted and stuck in that cycle of exhaustion. All things are in him, not in us. It's not up to us. We cannot control the things around us. We cannot control people. We cannot control their actions, their behaviors, their feelings, emotions. We can't control the action, what people do and the outcomes. We can't control everything. We can't control for people, right? Like for our family to do things exactly how you wish. Why? Because God designed each of them uniquely in his image and likeness for his purpose, with personalities and dislikes, likes, and all that align in him and in all the unique purposes that he has for each individual in your family. So that means, again, that is a whole territory that is not in our control. It's not like this black and white unilateral situation, right? We don't have control over all those intricacies because we have to have that big faith and that big trust that all things are in him. All things are in him. Proverbs 16:9. We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps. So again, we can do what we want to do. We can make the plans. We can decide. We can try to control things as best as we can. But at the end of the day, the Lord determines our steps. He determines them. So when we understand these things, we can understand that if we're feeling exhausted, we need to step back and again, put back our trust in him, our focus back in him. What am I focusing? What am I doing right now that I don't need to be doing? What am I doing right now? Or what situations and things and that I'm getting caught up in that I'm not meant to be in right now, that he doesn't want me caught up in these things right now. Let me release that. Release the burdens and the expectations that I have placed on myself and release that to Christ. And then be still and listen to what it is that he has for us and what he wants us to do. So out of all this, we need to be renewed in him, becoming aware of the areas that you need to let go of. Releasing exhaustion and burning out is the first step, is to become aware. Again, becoming aware of the areas that you need to let go of. Step back, reflect, assess. What do I need to let go of? Why am I feeling so exhausted? Why am I feeling constantly exhausted and burnt out? Like I am just pulled in 1,000 directions and all that. Step back and assess. Where does he not want me to be in right now? What does he not want me to do right now? What it is exactly that you have for me, Lord. Okay, you want me to pull back from this area. You don't want me involved in this certain group anymore. You don't want me involved in this ministry anymore. You don't want me involved in this space right now. But what is it that you have for me in this season? Okay, you want me to put all my focus here. But see, what's the benefit? Right? Now that you know, okay, these are the possible roots, causes of my exhaustion, causes of my, continuously feeling burnt out. Let me assess, whatever I'm carrying that I don't need to. What's the benefit? The benefit is that now your cup can overflow. Now you can minister out of that overflow. You can pour into your household, your kids, into all that he placed for, inside of you. All of that coming out of your overflow. Now your attention and your energy is going to be where it needs to be. So now, your attention and your energy is not split in like 1,000 different directions. The more that you narrow it down, less energy is spent where it doesn't need to be, and now more energy and attention are in the things that were where it was meant to be. So now what happens? It's your attention, all your energy is where it needs to be. Now you're more efficient in the things that he wanted you to be in the first place. Think about like when you have a spout of water, right? Like when you have those different modes of the shower head, right? Like the more you narrow it down or the more you spread them out, right? Like it's like that soft spray when it's like shooting in all the different, like little holes or whatever you want to call them. And then as you turn the shower head to adjust what you like, when you're turning it and all the way, then it's like that jet mode. That jet mode is because it's only pouring out, all the water is pouring out only that center. So all that pressure of the water is all centered. And that's why the water is now jetting out. As soon as you change it back and it starts spreading, that flow it's light, right? It's like the soft flow or whatever you want to call it. Think about that. So the more you narrow down all the things that you were never meant to be in, now all your attention and energy is exactly where he wants you to be in. And now you're more efficient. Now you're moving. Now you're getting somewhere with energy. Your cup is overflowing because you're narrowing it and you're cutting all the extras out. So this again will allow you to feel peace, and you will be officially walking in your calling and obedience in him. So you will get your rest. You will find your rest. You will receive peace that is rooted in him. And you will be efficiently walking in your calling and all that your purpose and all that you were destined and created to be. Walking in the purpose. Walking in his will. So, break free from culture. Release hyper ambition today. Release your need for control. And you will find your peace. You will find your rest. You'll be renewed in him, and you'll be efficiently and sharp, working sharply and diligently in the things that he placed in your hands. Remember that Satan was the one that reinvented himself and wanted to, he had all the talents, all the things, but he was the one that reinvented himself. Look where that got him. So stop trying to reinvent yourself. Stop trying to reinvent yourself in the things that the culture and everything else is trying to place on you, or whatever generational patterns that were placed on you. None of that is for you. You are meant to be his daughter first, being close to hear what the Father is saying, remembering that you were created in his image and his likeness. I pray that this blessed you today. I pray that it helps you reflect on all the things that, all the spaces that you're in right now. That you reflect and that you focus on the things that God has placed in your hand. So moms, no, exhaustion is not your portion. That cycle of exhaustion is not your portion. Reflect on what it is that you can be narrowing it down. I'm not saying you're not going to feel tired. Yes, you're going to feel tired. The kids kind of like demanding from you, your spouse demanding from you. But it's getting into that cycle of exhaustion, that cycle of burning out, where now you're not efficient in anything because you're just so exhausted and tired and burnt out, right? It's that part that I want you to think about. Not feeling guilty for saying I'm tired. I can tell you all the times I'm tired. It's not about, saying that you can't say you're tired, right? Let's not say that. But let's break that cycle, the cycles that, that we've allowed to be placed on us, and accept only the things that God placed in us and what he has for us. I want you to, if you're a mom, pass this to another mom. Send it to another mom that needs to hear this, another woman that needs to hear this. Even if they're not, a mom right now, send this to them. Send this to a fellow woman that needs to hear this, and share it with her. Pray over her that she is blessed and she receives rest. Peace. Today. Thank you again for tuning in. Again, I pray that you all have a wonderful Mother's Day, a blessed Mother's Day. Love all of you. We'll talk again soon.